Learning objectives include what is anaphylaxis, how it is initiated, and how to treat it. Hypersensitivities basically are abnormal antigenic response. Another word which is used for these hypersensitivity is allergy. You must have heard that the person is allergic to, let's say, eggs or pollens. So allergy or hypersensitivity are synonyms. They could be used equally. So those antigens that result in this damaging kind of response, immune response, are called allergens. They are basically antigens, but they have been given a special name, allergens. Immune system against these allergens respond in a damaging manner. This is a normal response of the body, actually, but body does not know what it is doing. So we see it differently. We see it as a damaging thing, or in a damaging way, the immune system reacts against that allergen or antigen. If you classify these damaging manners of the immune system, we have 4 types of hypersensitivities. Type 1 to type 4, with the Roman letters, as you can see. Type 1, it is also called anaphylaxis. Type 2 is a cytotoxic, is another name. Type 3 is also called immune complex mediated hypersensitivity. And type 4 is called delayed cell mediated hypersensitivity. Let's look at anaphylaxis, which is type 1 hypersensitivity. Now, how to recognize it in a person? If you see a person suffering from anaphylaxis, there will be a history of exposure to, let's say, somebody has been stung with the bees, or to any venom of ants sometimes, or exposed to pollens in a summer season when you see lots of flowers everywhere. So there will be a history, and the person would tell you that, well, he got this. He was exposed to pollens, he was stung by a bee or something like that. And he will experience difficulty in the respiration, breathing would be difficult, and there would be a symptom of shock. Shock, basically, when you see somebody in shock, the person would look pale because his blood vascular system is not working properly. The heart is pumping with a rapid rate, which we call increased heart rate. But blood vessels kind of relax. They pool the volume, the blood volume. So they relax, and that causes a hypotension, low blood pressure. So these are the signs by which you can recognize a person that is suffering from anaphylaxis. And there is another very good important point that you should remember, that after 30 minutes after the exposure to an allergen, anaphylaxis usually starts. So this timing is also very important. Now, if you look at the nature of this anaphylaxis, that what happens in the background is that IgE, which is a kind of immunoglobulin, there are 5 classes of immunoglobulin we talked about earlier, like IgG, IgM, IgD, and IgA, and IgE. So in anaphylaxis, which is type 1 hypersensitivity, IgE is synthesized against the allergen. And this IgE, these antibodies, they bind to mast cells. When that allergen, this happens, this binding of these antibodies after the being made, they bind to the mast cells after the first exposure of the antigen or the allergen. But anaphylaxis happens the second time. So what happens the second time, that these antibodies are already attached to the mast cells. When that allergens becomes available in the body, that allergens interact with the 2 antibody molecules that are closely lying to each other on the surface of the mast cell. And this triggers a response in the cell which we call degranulation. Because mast cells have granules in them that have some chemicals of inflammation. And when this antigen binds to and cross-links two antibody molecules on the surface of the mast cell, those granules are released by the mast cells into the circulations, and those granules have chemical mediators, like histamine is one of them. Histamine is released, and that causes inflammation, that causes vasodilation, that results in more blood coming to that area, and that causes swelling as well. And leukotrienes and prostaglandins, these all have various impact on the smooth muscles of the body. And as you can see, that smooth muscles are present in the bronchioles also, in the respiratory system of the body. And contraction of these smooth muscles in the bronchiole would lead to narrowing of the airway, and that is the reason the person feels labored breathing or difficulty in breathing. These are different examples that shock could be experienced, or anaphylaxis could be experienced by drug reaction, could be venoms, or could be common allergens, like people suffering from asthma. They are exposed to common antigens like pollens, for example, that are in the air. Now, how to diagnose? Well, the diagnosis is based on two things. One is that if you demonstrate IgE level, increased IgE level, normally IgE is not very much present in the body. But in those allergic people, you can see an increase in IgE level, and that could be done with various tests like ELISA, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, is one of them. One of the procedures that can demonstrate increased level of IgE. So, and the second is that those people who are allergic to pollens, for example, they can go to clinics that deal with allergies, and they have those pollens prepared as antigens with them, and they inject intradermally into the skin with a very fine needle. They inject that allergen, and then after like 30 minutes, they would see, if the person is allergic, they would see a kind of wheel, raised wheel, as a response. So then the doctor knows that this guy or this person is suffering from this pollen. And then you can, if you know that these are the allergens, you can get yourself desensitized. There's a procedure. I'm not going into that detail, but there is. So, but how to treat a person who is suffering from anaphylaxis? And the simple answer is by giving epinephrine or antihistaminic drugs. So these are life-saving drugs. Epinephrine in anaphylaxis, like systemic anaphylaxis, which involves the whole body. Asthma, for example, is a local reaction, local anaphylactic reaction that is confined to the lungs only. So there you could use antihistamine drugs. So in summary, anaphylaxis involves IgE antibodies. Histamine is released. Histamine and other mediators of inflammations, they're released and they cause the problem. And they could be treated, or they could be, the effect could be stopped by antihistaminic. Because histamine basically is the major component that is involved in this reaction, bad reaction or damaging reaction. Thank you.